Your kind isn't welcome here. Too rowdy. Take your business elsewhere. The words came from behind the bar, gruff and laced with judgment. They weren't screamed. That would have been too obvious. No, Carl Dunley preferred his disdain served, like his beer, cold and bitter. Noah Beckett, a recently discharged Navy SEAL, didn't flinch. He didn't even turn his head right away. He sat at a corner table alone, a full beer in front of him, untouched. Quiet, watchful. "Rowdy?" he finally asked, his voice low, even. Carl didn't answer, just jerked his thumb toward the exit. "Out, before I make you leave." Beckett let the moment sit, then took a breath. "I haven't even finished my first drink." Didn't matter. Carl had already decided. The Salty Clam wasn't much to look at. A weathered waterfront bar that reeked of old fry oil and stale beer. It had its regulars. Dockhands, salty tourists, and the occasional bachelor party that wandered in off the marina. Tuesday night meant quiet, or at least it should have. Beckett had picked it for that reason. He'd come to Windermere Bay trying to find something like peace. A small rented room above a bait shop, a duffel bag with 3 shirts, 1 pair of boots, and a lifetime of things he wasn't ready to talk about. 15 years in the teams, quiet deployments, long silences, louder explosions, enough brothers. Lost to fill a memorial wall. Civilian life wasn't so much a soft landing as it was a hard reset. Beckett didn't look like what movies told you a SEAL should look like. He wasn't a brick wall in a t-shirt. He was lean, quiet, precise, gray eyes like cold steel. Everything about him said calm, until it didn't. He wore jeans, a plain shirt, and a faded ball cap. Nothing flashy, nothing loud. He didn't want tension. He just wanted to think. Carl Dunley didn't like thinkers. The owner of the Salty Clam was a wide man with a narrow mind. Years ago, a group of off-duty sailors had gotten into a bar fight out back. Carl had never let it go. To him, every military man was a ticking time bomb, or at the very least, bad for business. So when Noah walked in that night, Carl clocked him instantly, the way he scanned the room without seeming to. The stillness, the posture, the presence. Carl didn't see a man enjoying a quiet beer. He saw a threat. 20 minutes passed. Beckett sat at his table, eyes now resting on the dusty nautical charts on the wall. He hadn't moved, hadn't spoken to anyone. That didn't stop Carl. He sauntered over, arms crossed. "All right, pal," he said, voice louder than it needed to be. "You've been sitting here staring for 20 minutes. You casing the joint or something?" Noah looked up, confused. "Just enjoying my beer. Thinking." Carl scoffed. "Yeah, don't like your kind of thinking in my establishment. Makes people nervous." He gestured broadly to the empty bar. The few patrons pretended not to notice. "My kind?" Beckett asked, his voice level, but with something sharper underneath. Carl leaned in, breath ripe with smoke and beer. The quiet, intense, military-looking kind. "You guys are always trouble. Think you own the place. Always ready for a fight." Noah tilted his head, studying the man. "I haven't said a word to anyone but the bartender. I haven't moved from this table." "Doesn't matter," Carl snapped. "I know your type. You're all the same. I run a respectable place." He nodded at the beer. "So finish that swill and get out." Noah placed the glass down, slow and deliberate. What burned wasn't the beer. It was the disrespect, the prejudice, the ignorance after all he'd done. All he'd endured, to be treated like this, for nothing. "I believe," Noah said, voice calm but edged with steel, "that I'm a paying customer. I believe I've done nothing wrong, and I believe I have the right to finish my drink in peace." Carl's hesitation lasted half a second, then he slammed his hand on the table. "You believe wrong, buddy." He pointed to the bouncer, thick, silent, and clearly ready. "You're out, or he makes you out, and trust me, you don't want that." Noah looked at Carl, then at the bouncer, then back again, and he knew he could take both of them, fast, efficient, no sweat. But what would it prove? He'd left war zones to start a new life. Fighting wasn't the answer anymore. He stood up, slowly, calmly, pushed in his chair, left the full beer on the table. "Keep the change," he said quietly, though he hadn't paid yet, then walked to the door. Carl and the bouncer watched him, go smug in their small victory. Outside, the night air was cool, still, but inside Noah something churned. He walked a few blocks, each step heavier than the last. At the edge of the marina, he stopped, rested his hands on the sea wall, watched the tide roll in, soft and steady. He pulled out his phone, opened an encrypted app used by people who never needed to explain why. He typed salty clam. Owner Carl Dunley. Ejected me. No cause. Hostile. Just FYI. NBA. She hit send. Not a threat. Not a request. Just a note. Because loyalty didn't end at discharge. And sometimes showing up was all it took to remind the world. You never mess with one SEAL unless you're ready to meet them all. The next day around 3 p.m., Carl Dunley unlocked the front door of the Salty Clam, whistling to himself. Afternoon shift was quiet on Thursdays. Locals came in later, tourists wandered after dinner. He liked it that way. His place, his rules, no more trouble. He was still congratulating himself on how he'd handled the previous night when the first van pulled up. Big, black, unmarked. It stopped across the street with eerie precision. The engine idled. Then 2 more identical vans slid in behind it. Carl's whistling died. The doors opened. One by one, men emerged, tall, built, calm. Wearing jeans and nondescript shirts, but something in their gait said they weren't here for drinks. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. They moved across the street in quiet formation, like they'd done 100 times in places far less forgiving than Windmere Bay. Carl stepped back into the doorway of his bar, suddenly very aware of his own heartbeat. 12 of them, and leading the way. Rourke. They said nothing, but their silence said everything. Presence, intent, brotherhood. Carl's stomach turned as the 12 men reached the door and waited. They didn't knock. They didn't need to. These weren't delivery trucks. The doors slid open like a scene. Rehearsed in silence, one after another, they stepped out. 12 men, each one tall, solid, and unflinchingly focused. The way they moved, measured, synchronized, didn't belong to tourists or tradesmen. It belonged to something else entirely. They wore civilian clothes, jeans, t-shirts, boots, a couple in flannels, a few baseball caps pulled low, but there was nothing ordinary about them, not in their posture, not in their eyes. Each one carried the same quiet authority, like a storm that hadn't broken yet, like they were coiled springs walking with the confidence of men who'd faced worse than anything this coastal town could throw at them. They didn't look at the gift shop, didn't glance at the diner next door, didn't acknowledge the couple staring from the ice cream stand across the street. They only saw the bar, the Salty Clam, and Carl Dunley frozen in its doorway. Rourke led them, his face unreadable, his gaze locked on Carl with surgical precision. The other 11 fanned out behind him, space just enough to block the entire entrance, just enough to make it clear. No one else gets in or out. They didn't speak, and that silence was deafening. Carl opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Can I help you, gentlemen? He finally managed, his voice cracking into a high, awkward register. Rourke didn't respond right away. He just stared. The kind of stare that stripped you bare, layer by layer, until nothing but the truth remained. Carl shifted uncomfortably, sweat already beating along his hairline. The bar behind him had gone dead quiet. A couple of regulars, sensing something they didn't want to be part of, slowly gathered their things and slipped out the back. Still, the 12 men said nothing. They didn't need to. Their presence said it all, and deep down, Carl already knew. He'd made the wrong enemy. The silence stretched, heavy, loaded, the kind that carried consequences. From behind the bar, the bouncer, who had just clocked in, froze mid-step. One glance at the 12 men, and he decided, today was not the day to be brave. He grabbed a rag and busied himself polishing glasses, trying to blend into the background. Rourke finally broke the silence. Carl Dunley. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was the voice of someone used to giving orders on foreign soil, where hesitation meant lives lost. Carl cleared his throat. Yeah, that's me. Rourke didn't blink. We understand you had a misunderstanding last night with one of our own. Carl's eyes darted between them, fingers twitching. Look, he was just sitting there. I thought he might cause trouble. It was a gut feeling, that's all. No harm done, right? A low sound rolled from the back of the group, not a laugh. A rumble, deep, distant. The kind of sound thunder makes when it's still deciding how hard to hit. It came from a mountain of a man they called Bishop. Rourke's eyes didn't move. "No harm done," he repeated flatly. "You insulted a man who served this country for 15 years. You threatened him. Kicked him out like he didn't belong. Because of what? A gut feeling?" Carl's mouth opened, closed, fumbled for a justification. "I support the troops. I got a flag out front." "Sometimes you just get a bad vibe off someone." "A bad vibe," Rourke cut in. "Interesting. We're getting one from you, from this whole place." He took a step closer. "We were going to hold our team debrief here, have a few rounds, celebrate. A retirement, 12 of us, maybe more. We thought we'd support a local business." His gaze swept the near-empty bar. "But after what you did to Beckett, we're reconsidering." Carl's eyes widened. Retirement, celebration, 12 Navy veterans spending hours and money at his bar. The lost profit hit him like a brick. He tried a new tactic, smile thin, voice careful. "If it was a mistake, I apologize. To him, to you. First round's on the house, all right?" Rourke didn't flinch. "We're not here for free drinks, and you don't owe us an apology. You owe it to Noah. You disrespected his service, his dignity, the quiet kind of strength most men can't begin to understand. Another step forward. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to find Noah Beckett. You're going to apologize. In person, sincerely. You're going to make it right, not for us, for him." He paused. "And you're going to make a sizable donation to the Navy Veteran Foundation. In Noah's name, publicly." Carl's jaw dropped. "A donation? How much are we talking about?" Rourke gestured to the medic standing quietly beside him. "Doc here's good with numbers. He'll help you find the appropriate amount." Carl looked like he'd swallowed a shot of kerosene, but he nodded. Rourke's eyes hardened. "From now on, this place doesn't just fly a flag. It honors what that flag stands for, with action, with respect. Understood?" Carl could only nod. Again, Rourke leaned in, voice low. "Good. Now call Noah. He's expecting your apology." And just like that, Windmere Bay's most notorious bar was under new, unofficial management. Carl Dunley pulled out his phone with trembling hands. His voice, once cocky and coarse, was now tight with dread. "He's expecting your call," Rourke said quietly, almost like a reminder, but it carried the full weight of a command. The line rang once, twice. "Noah Beckett. Noah, this is Carl from the Salty Clam. Look, I just wanted to say I'm sorry, truly, for last night. I was wrong. You didn't deserve that. I hope you'll come back as my guest, any time." There was a pause. Then Noah replied, voice calm, steady. "Thanks for the call. I'll think about it." Click. For the next hour, the Salty Clam was under unofficial new management. Doc, the team's medic and finance guy, sat down with Carl in the back office. The conversation was soft but surgical. It wasn't just about the numbers, it was about respect, about change, about making things right. Out in the main room, the rest of the team spread out. Quietly, deliberately. No drinks, no orders, just presence. Their silence was more powerful than any speech. Customers who wandered in took one look and turned right back around. Even the jukebox seemed to stay quiet. When Carl emerged, his shirt clung damp to his back and his wallet significantly lighter. He looked like a man who'd seen something bigger than himself and realized he wasn't the main character in the room anymore. Then, in front of everyone, he called Noah again, this time on speaker. "Noah, this is Carl. I just spoke with your team and with Doc. I meant what I said earlier, but I want to say it properly now. You are welcome here, always, and we're making a donation in your name to the Navy Veteran Foundation. It's public, it's permanent. I hope you'll give us a second chance." There was a pause, then a quiet, "Thanks, Carl. I'll stop by soon." The SEALs left the way they came. In silence, in sync, without fanfare, just a ghost trail of presence and principle in their wake. 1 week later, Noah Beckett walked into the Salty Clam. Alone, Carl was waiting. "Mr. Beckett," he said, nervously polishing a glass. "First beer's on the house, actually. Whatever you want, it's on the house." The bouncer gave Noah a nod, small but respectful. Noah sat at the same corner table as before. This time, no one looked at him sideways. No one whispered. No one flinched. He sipped his beer. Peacefully, a quiet smile touched his lips. Because some battles are fought without bullets. Some victories don't need medals. And sometimes, the most powerful message you can send is simply showing up. The story of what happened at the Salty Clam spread quietly but swiftly throughout Windmere Bay and far beyond. The bar is still there. The flag still flies. But now it means something. Because brotherhood doesn't end with discharge. And when you mess with one seal, you might just meet the rest of them. Subscribe to Stories Unseen if you believe respect should be earned and never forgotten.